Pactul Verde European este una dintre politicile principale ale Uniunii Europene și un pariu care trebuie câștigat, căci viitorul continentului și al locuitorilor săi depinde de felul în care anul 2050 va însemna neutralitate zero din punctul de vedere al emisiilor de carbon. Urmăriți o ediție specială Europa 360, inițiată de TVR Timișoara și finanțată de Comitetul European al Regiunilor. Conferința pe climă de la Glasgow din toamna anului 2021 este considerată o reușită de către participanți, mulți dintre ei reprezentanții ai autorităților locale și regionale din Uniunea Europeană. În opinia lor, implementarea Pactului Verde trebuie să respecte principiul subsidiarității, anume găsirea celor mai bune soluții la nivel local, ca mai apoi să se dezvolte la nivel național și european.
The climate change is one of the hugest problems that we are confronting with. I know that you were one of the members who attended the COP26 in Glasgow. A key point in changing things in Europe and not only, and I'm curious to find out what was the conclusion there from your point of view.
So many people think that Glasgow, the COP26, was a failure, it was only blah blah, but in fact, I see it as a positive outcome. It's very complex. You have all the countries of the planet. You have NGOs. You have a huge expectation. The clock is ticking. You have also a climate change happening. So it takes time, but we had very good progress. For instance, the formal recognition, and we're here with the local and regional representative, the formal recognition of local and regional levels in the governance of climate change. Also the idea now that we have also to adapt, not only to have a mitigation, but also adaptation, because climate change is happening. It's too late not to have it, and now we have to cope with it. So it's also a huge change of mind. There's also a lot of money that's going to be on the table, and for Europe. Europe is really one of the biggest player and probably the continent or the entity that is the most advanced and the most ambitious regarding climate change. And this in Glasgow, it was also the strength of the European Union and all the countries in the European Union to push forward this agenda and to achieve some goal that will have to be again implemented over the years and next year in Sharm el-Sheikh.
Green Deal is definitely one of the biggest themes that is talked all around Europe, and not only. Green Deal, green going local is very important, and I know you can tell me more about this, especially because it's not enough to have this Green Deal written on papers, but it's important to have it implemented in regions and in local places.
So what is written on paper is net carbon neutrality by 2050. And even this will probably not be enough and would be too late. But the goal is the target of the European Union. It's the most ambitious goal that we have. It's also a goal that is written in stone, because it's a law. It's the law of the European Union, and it's going to be also enforced in all member states. So now we have to find the ways for each member state, each region, each city to also be carbon neutral by 2050 and to reduce its carbon footprint by carbon emissions by 55% by 2030. It's tomorrow. So they reach a huge legislative package where local and regional representatives have to contribute and have their say in order to first pass the laws that will make this possible. So we will have to change some of our ways of life. We'll have to stop subsidize fossil fuels. We have to stop produce electricity or public heating with coal or gas or oil. and also there's funds in place for isolation, for renovating buildings, and also especially for Poland, for regions that are really coal dependent, to transition from a coal dependency to renewables. That is what is called the Just Transition Fund, because some will be impacted negatively by the change of the economy that we're going to have. We at the Committee of the Regions, the European Committee of the Regions, we defend the idea of subsidiarity, meaning that we should do at the local level what's best dealt with at the local level instead of national or regional. So we'll have in fact also to adapt to local realities. We'll have to adapt to existing power plants, existing businesses, existing public services, but also at the same time one molecule of CO2 that is emitted in Poland or in Malta or in Romania or in France is going to contribute exactly the same way to global warming. So we'll have also to set standards that are really strict and that will have to be respected by all member states. That member states should really implement the law. And what we think at the European Committee of the Regions is, instead of having European targets or national targets that sometimes are just on paper, we should build these targets that are presented at the COP. This is what we negotiate upon. We should build this target not from the top but bottom up, meaning that each city or each region defines its targets with regards the economy, the population, the agricultural sector, which is very important in CO2 emission as well, and the addition of local plans, local targets should make the national one and then the European one. We think this should be done this way. Japan just does it like this, and not from the top to the local level. But in the end, the results will have to be the same: carbon neutrality in 2050 and minus 55% of CO2 emission in the EU by 2030.
You're a mayor in France. Which is your target step by step?
So we're building our target not at the town level, which makes no sense, but more at the territorial level, meaning the city and the villages around that provides food, also where people live, and where people go to work and everyday travel, because a lot of CO2 emissions come also from people going to work or people living in rural areas. And the pollution is not only in megalopolises, and the result is not just planting trees in big cities. The result is also preserving forests, and we have a lot of forests in my regions, in Burgundy, in France. So this is also our strategy. So we're building this, and we're at the process of doing this, but we're also a small town, 15,000 inhabitants. We are a small territory, and we lack also a little bit the technicity, the engineering to really construct and build serious and reliable targets. So this is why at the Committee of the Regions we also think that we should provide, or the European Union should provide, these brains, this engineering, these competencies also to the smaller communities or rural areas, so that they can also build from the bottom their own targets and their own plans.
Brașovul își propune să devină capitala verde a României, un proiect ambițios, dar posibil de realizat, cu ajutorul exemplelor de bune practici colectate din țările care au reușit să facă tranziția la verde, dar și prin implicarea activă a locuitorilor.
Brașovul are multe ambiții, una dintre ele fiind să fie capitala verde a României, atât în percepție cât și în lucruri cuantificabile, în lucruri concrete. Și avem nevoie de fonduri, în primul rând, de fonduri europene, și avem proiecte pregătite pentru a atrage astfel de fonduri. Avem nevoie de exemple de bune practici și de ajutorul Europei, inclusiv în acest domeniu, pentru că vorbim despre schimbări de mentalități, dar vorbim și despre cum putem să facem o tranziție către orașe mai deschise, orașe mai relaxate, orașe care cu o calitate a vieții superioare. Pornind pornind de la mobilitate, continuând cu felul în care protejăm natura și în care o integrăm în mediul locuit. Ori despre toate acestea am avut ocazia să discutăm cu oameni de decizie și cu cei care fac politici publice cu ocazia Forumului Orașelor Verzi în septembrie anul trecut, cu ocazia unui astfel de eveniment care este și politic și diplomatic. Am lansat invitații de participare către voci importante din spectrul politic european, astfel încât la Brașov să facem acest eveniment în septembrie, între 5 și 11 septembrie anul acesta, să fie un eveniment relevant pentru întreaga Europa.
Care ar fi cea mai importantă provocare, să spunem, pentru un oraș cum este Brașovul în această tranziție către verde? Care e cea mai grea chestie pe care trebuie să o faceți?
Cred că începem de la mentalități, pentru că în momentul în care nu ai o problemă atât de mare, nu stai ore în trafic, e foarte greu să percepi că vei ajunge acolo într-un univers de timp de ani de zile. Și atunci, soluțiile pe care Europa le-a aprobat și pe care le vedem în multe orașe occidentale, ar trebui să fie aplicate și la noi. Prioritizarea pietonilor, prioritizarea transportului public, a pistelor de bicicletă, a infrastructurii ciclabile, într-un oraș care până acum a fost dezvoltat în jurul mașinii și bulevardele au fost lărgite să facă loc pentru cât mai multe mașini. Ori această tendință este o tendință cu care se confruntă toate orașele din întreaga lume, nu doar din Europa. Soluțiile există, au fost probate, trebuie doar să facem acel minim efort și să vedem că ține de fiecare dintre noi să avem orașe cu calitatea aerului mai bună și orașe mai relaxate, orașe în care să-ți facă plăcere să te plimbi pe jos.
Polonia se numără printre țările care au trecut deja serios de la vorbe la fapte în ceea ce privește tranziția către verde, iar diferența, spun autoritățile locale, o fac gesturile mici din viața de zi cu zi ale cetățenilor. Acolo, la educație și la conștientizare trebuie lucrat în primul rând, iar rezultatele nu vor întârzia să apară.
At first, it is education for our citizens. It is very, very important to make everything to give them the knowledge how to do it, what we must to do it. Special, not only the young generation, because we know that they want to live in the green area, in the beautiful blue and green planet. But it is the huge problem, especially for the old generation people, because they don't understand anything. Sometimes, they feeling that something's happened because the climate, the unusual atmosphere changes which happened around us. They give an idea that something happened. Never this tornado, which never have place before in Poland, for example. Now it is obviously it's happened. So we must do education, and once again make an education for our citizens.
We always say that the small gestures actually make the difference, right?
Yes, of course. Step by step. We can't change everything in one moment. We must to start just now and do it very, very fast, but step by step, and otherwise we may only nothing's happened, and otherwise we give them a special tools to change his small area around him. So we give them special money for exchange the individual hating system thinking. This is another wise we give them the money to put the greens around his houses, to keep the water in this, a special money for the resistance, to make sure that the water which we know that it is sometimes we have now a huge, it is usually is dry everywhere, but in one moment we have a huge amount of the water which is coming down, and we must to put this water in the ground, not to give them the opportunity to flow with the go to the sea or somewhere. So we must to give them once education, second the money to do it. This is the reason why we must to talk with the citizens.
Budapesta este un megalopolis, iar cea mai mare provocare pentru autoritățile locale o constituie tranziția la verde. Reducerea drastică a numărului de mașini și utilizarea transportului în comun, colectarea selectivă corectă și extinderea zonelor verzi sunt pașii siguri către atingerea obiectivului.
I was thinking like that from a scale from 1 to 10. How difficult is to implement that green transition in such a huge and busy and a complex city like Budapest?
Like 9. It's difficult because there's a lot of ambition. That's important from the political, from the decision makers. Budapest elected a progressive mayor, so there's a big ambition. We have all the expertise, and that is important. So we created good plans in transforming our transport system, in biodiversity, in transforming the gray, green, blue infrastructure, in sustainable energy and climate action plans. We have the expertise, we have the ambition, but a lot of change is going on.
Who is the most involved in your campaigns, and who is the most, like this when it comes to changes?
When it comes to climate issues and responsibility, it's always more women who I find in cities. We try to build bridges. Not easy because there are some examples, but not rooted in Hungary well. This direct channeling of citizens, because we are used to a world where there's always a mediator. It's the same as the media. Earlier it was always talking to journalists and journalists talking to people. Now it's social media. Politicians are talking directly to their citizens. It has advantages and disadvantages, but we use social media. We try to connect directly with our citizens. But when it comes to it's educating citizens, it's a bad term, but this is what we use. People get fed up after a time. So what we see is that pacing these changes and having enough stakeholders in and having strategic partners with NGOs, with groups of people that can push the change, that's very important. When it comes to climate change goals, a lot of people challenge that it's not the personal decision. So it's not upon the citizen if he eats less meat or more meat or use less water or more water. It's the big industry, the big companies and big legislation. What I see is that every level has its role. Of course, there has to be a European framework, but it's already done. If we look at the waste measurements on plastic, on the banning of single-use plastic, on changing what kind of plastic can we make so it can be recyclable. When it comes to goals on strict goals on landfilling, we have to decrease landfilling of waste under 10%. So what I see is we have the European framework. We need a national legislational framework, and we need a national communication and engagement. You need the cities level, but what I always say is that if you don't get people in, changing something, a little thing, in the way they use water, in the way they use electricity, in what they buy, where they buy it from. You don't have to change everything at the same time. But if you have somebody engaged already, put in some energy, some effort, some mind, they will vote for politicians that will keep up this track and will stay on this track. Because if they say that I already done my share and I'm engaged, then maybe we can stay on this track.
We are different countries, different regions, and with different base. And I was thinking about the Central and especially Eastern Europe, where we both come from, which are totally different as education and everything, and as behavior from the Western countries. Can you make a comparison between
the two parts of them, because definitely in the western part of Europe things go better and better, especially because citizens already have education related to this.
Let's see, yes, like recycling is not a new thing for a Swedish citizen. It's there in their life for a long time. This is what they see in their environment, and it's now like an everyday thing with a very high recycling rate. But let's see another country where, like in Budapest or like Hungary, where we have a 50% landfilling still. So we landfill most of our waste. And to start to move from this point to a very high recycling rate, it's not an easy, and it's not always quite obvious how you can do it. What I see is on the local level is that if a local authority is given to a city so it can make its own decision on pricing, on waste management, and have its own freedom in its budget, then it can do a lot. And this transition period can be much shorter. When it's centralized and people are not engaged and not enthusiastic, it's just a must, it's just a legislation, then cities and countries can be stuck. And I see this being stuck in waste issues in Hungary, a reality, because all power went to the government. We introduced a recycling bin to every household, so there is a recycling bin, so everybody can do recycling at home, and there's no progress. Because
it's for free, you said.
And it's for free. And there's no progress. And what I see is that thinking of the government is in the direction of incineration. Okay, then we won't landfill, then we will incinerate. But it's not the spirit of circular economy, because what we're looking at is producing less waste. So that's priority number one, having less waste. And then reuse, repair, recycle, use it as a material, not burn it and put it away somewhere. When you engage citizens, when you give responsibilities, and this is also about democracy, local democracies, responsibilities, you want to give responsibility, because the other way is that I am the leader, I will take care. It's not your job. And we see that it doesn't go anywhere. What we see is that if we teach and we engage people in like recycling and in making smarter decisions in shopping and to compost and to keep in mind their consumption and purchases, it has a multiplicator effect on a lot of other fields. Then they will be more conscious on energy, they will be more conscious on water, they become more conscious on traveling.
Is Budapest already a smart city?
Not smart enough. We're looking at all of the innovation. We have some our own innovations. So we're keeping up with the European cities. We do the same as the other cities, but we have our own innovation, and it's connected to biodiversity, because we have this smart car that goes around in the city, like the Google car, and we get a lot of data from what is built in the city, and we used it only for roads and buildings before, to have this three-dimension map of the city. But now there is artificial intelligence that we cooperated and we use now, put together with this software, which recognizes the trees, and not just that it is a tree, but which kind of tree and what value does it have. So we will have a tree cataster, a list of trees and species and age and value, and I'm really proud of that.